Welcome to Floodcast!
Hey everybody, welcome to another Floodcast. We are so glad you are here with us. Hopefully this is marking your week with just another creative, fun space for you to keep your brains, your hearts active as we continue to figure out how to emerge out of shelter in place. And also as we continue to figure out what it means to follow Jesus in the midst of this season. And as we start to slowly open things up, I'm noticing that my schedule is getting a little bit more busy. It's starting to fill up in a way that is very different than when I was quarantining at home. And I have found the need to pause, to stop, to maybe slow down a little bit. And we thought maybe you might be in the same position. And so we want to have an opportunity to do that together with our friend, Catherine. Check this out.
Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome back to Calming Moments with Catherine. I'm excited to be here with you today as I recently got back from a trip to the Himalayas, and now I'm excited to teach you what I learned while there. The first thing is that it is always important to surround yourself with music. And so, I was able to purchase a gold box of music. I don't know how they keep it all in there, but to let it out, you spin the handle. Let's listen. Fantastic. Next, let us look at some artwork. This artwork was found in the ancient Himalayan libraries, behind stone doors. Let's see what they contained. The first is called Quarantina. Where is she and why is she there? These are some questions every good artist should ask themselves. Let's take a moment to appreciate it. Nice. Lastly, as we close our time together today, I would like to share with you some special Himalayan snow. Now, most people come back from the Himalayas carrying blocks of salt, which I don't understand. Because the real treasure is in the never melting snow. And today we are going to learn how to keep our balance and to be present. This ancient rhythm of throwing and catching has no name, and that is okay. I encourage all of you who live in Colorado to hike the nearest 14er, gather some snow, and use it to accomplish this ancient task of throwing and catching. That is all that we have time for today. I am glad that you all joined me, and I would like to close on a free strumming guitar. Find your calm and find your calm. Finding your calm, find it, find it, find it.
For our game today, we know that school has either come to an end or is going to very quickly come to an end for you. And we want to make sure that those brains aren't turning into mush. And so our game today is called Scramble, where you are going to be trying to unscramble words, see if you can guess the right one before it is revealed. You can play this on your own time. Feel free to pause as needed. Feel free to also turn it into a family competition to see who guesses it correctly and keep points. So here it is, the game Scramble. Well, your brain's feeling a little less mushy, maybe a little more sharpened. Anyone feeling a little smarter after playing some Scramble? We're really grateful for the opportunity to have some fun with you and play games. So thanks for playing. For Truth Time today, we want to continue the conversation around the triangle. We introduced that a couple of weeks ago as up, in, and out, the types of relationship and the way of discipleship that's modeled by Jesus. And last week we dug in a little bit further to what does the up or worship relationship specifically look like. And this week we want to now focus on the in. What does Christian community look like for us? How do we connect with fellow believers? And how are we engaged in that important part of the balanced triangle? That we do have fellow believers around us. We do have friends that are also following Jesus. And we are participating in community relationships that are shaping us together and also feed into an up worship type relationship. Now, I've been a part of so many different versions of an in relationship. Admittedly, some not so good, and others just absolutely amazing. I think of a season in my life when I was a young youth worker. I was just married, early in my marriage, and I was often pretty lonely. I worked in a church that didn't have a ton of people that were my age or anywhere close to my life stage. And as a result, it was often lonely to do that work. And I got connected to a mentor of mine and friend of mine, and he took it upon himself to kind of gather a group of youth workers that were in this space, that were working for churches that didn't really have people that were like them in their life stage. And so he created an in community for us to gather and be committed to God's word and eating meals together, having fun together. And for about a year and a half, we had access to this just absolutely beautiful community that we didn't have to create ourselves, that we didn't even know we needed until we actually were a participant in it. And I remember so many of those conversations and those gatherings so vividly because it was such a rich time in my life. And I truly believe that those who are following in the way of Jesus absolutely need to have an in community. You need to have folks in your life who are also following in the way of Jesus and are encouraging you and are really helping you figure it out as you are helping them figure it out as well. And I really think of that passage in Hebrews 10 that is where the author is reminding people that we should not give up meeting together, as some had already been doing, kind of in the Jewish Christian communities, that they felt like they could probably do this on their own. But instead, no, gather together, be together as followers of Jesus, come together and figure out life in this way. We also think about what we introduced, the categories we introduced last week, that there are three primary spaces. You have a public way of gathering, you have a more intimate way of gathering, and then an individual way of gathering specifically. And so what does this look like for us? From a public setting, just like we talked about with worship, like our worship services, there are public ways that we can be gathering. Perhaps this is a larger Bible study specifically. Or maybe like for us at Flood, every single week we gather, that is a public gathering of those who are predominantly following the way of Jesus. And so we participate in understanding that we're not alone, but we actually might be a part of something much bigger with all of these other people who are figuring out what it means to follow Jesus. And then in that category of the intimate, that we have a smaller group. And so again, at Flood, we create this space in our student life groups, that we have an opportunity to gather together. It's a smaller group of people. Usually they are in our same grade, and we have an opportunity to relate to each other And I'm here to tell you, not everyone in our small groups is the same. In fact, that's one of the beautiful things, is that we are bringing students from all different walks of life together so that they can relate to one another and they can recognize that they are trying to figure out what it means to follow Jesus, even though they might have different video game tastes or listen to different music, definitely go to different schools. And that's one of those beautiful spaces. And then finally, the intimate space, that we have one-on-one type relationships. And this could look like having a mentor or having maybe a specific coach, someone who's actually helping you. Maybe we would even call them a discipler in figuring out what it means to follow Jesus. Like here at Wellspring, we use a word or a phrase called gospel friendships, that we have people who are connected to us in a relational way in a much more one-on-one type setting, but it's centered around the gospel. How can we be encouraging one another to live into what God has called us to? And so when we think about this often, it's really easy to think, man, this is all I need to do. I just need to cultivate an in relationship. But I want to give a word of caution. When we just think about our in community, it can very quickly become kind of this isolated, insular group. And what we'll be focusing on next week, I think, is going to help us balance this out. But it's this idea of out or mission. How do we enter into a place where we are not just gathering unto ourselves, but we also have a way to think outside of ourselves as well? But the formation that takes place and the rootedness that takes place in relationships, our formation spaces as followers of Jesus are incredibly important. And I want you to now think through, who are the people who are your in community? Maybe it's someone who is older than you. Maybe it's someone who's a part of your student life group. Maybe it's your life group leader specifically. But can you name people who are part of your in community? And I want you to go and hit pause, and I want you to write down as many people that you think are in your in community, that they're followers of Jesus, that they like you, have affinity towards you, like to spend time with you, and they are helping you figure out what it means to follow Jesus the best way they know how. Check that out, hit pause, and we'll come back on the other side. Well, I hope that was a really meaningful and good practice for you to actually sit down and name who your in community is. And I really believe that this is an important ingredient for us in understanding where we are in community, and also to have friendships, relationships, models even of what it means to follow Jesus. And so from here, I have another challenge for you. For your in community, I want you this week to reach out to them, and I specifically want you to thank them. Hey, thanks for helping me understand and figure out what it means to follow Jesus. You can text them, email them. Maybe you need to talk to them through a video chat or even face-to-face if you live close enough or can get access to wherever they live. But that's going to be my challenge for you this week. Thank those people who are helping you figure out what it means to follow Jesus, because our in community, our formation community, is incredibly important. May we continue to spur each other on towards the way and life of Jesus. Hey, thanks for joining us on this Floodcast. We're so grateful that you were here. We want to let you know that Floodcast, as you know it, is going to be coming to an end next week. Our next Floodcast is going to be the last one that's in this format. But don't worry, it's not fully going away. Floodcast is going to be repurposed for the summer as we have an opportunity to kind of reshuffle and reshape our priorities, our time, all that good stuff. And so be on the lookout, especially starting in mid-June, for the new and improved Floodcast as we continue to move forward in this season together. We are so glad you joined us. We'll see you next week for our final Floodcast.